When I started, I was working 21 to 22 hours a day. You cannot, I was doing that, I did that for 2.5 years. You start to go a little nutty by year 3. I worked on a project that was $1 billion sellout, like from signing that building and selling it out to working on $1 million deal with someone who was a first-time home buyer. Like every single deal is awesome. I learned something from every single time. Doing what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it is your word. That is your promise. That is your value proposition. Consumers want to know who is the person beyond the brand. It's much different from the way business was conducted before social media existed. People want to know who is behind the brand. What are the values of the brand? What are the values of the people?
Hello guys, welcome back to the Intelix Podcast, episode 12. Today I have the pleasure and honor to have Bianca D'Alessio, the CEO and founder of the Masters Division at Net Seekers International, #1 real estate broker in New York and 14 in the nation. It is an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
No, thank you so much. So, obviously that was kind of like a crazy introduction.
It really was. It was good. You did good there.
But let's go all the way back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me a bit more about your background, where you grew up, where you from?
And how far do you want me to start?
Just kind of like, what was the town that you grew up in?
Okay, so I grew up right outside of New York City in Westchester County. Lived in New York my whole life until I went to college. I went to Babson College in Boston, which we're sitting in right now. So excited to be back here. Gosh, I don't know what to say about my childhood leading up to Babson, but I think where I'd love to start the journey was kind of at Babson. I remember being in high school trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life and having absolutely no idea. I wasn't an academic, not knowing really where I wanted to go or where I felt my strengths were. But I grew up in a super small, and I would say sheltered town, and I wanted to explore the world. And so I was drawn to Babson because of how international the school was and because of their study abroad program. So while I was here, I got to spend over a year studying abroad, and that was so monumental into the next few years after that led to where I am today, just being introduced to so many different people and cultures and minds that my mind hadn't been challenged that way before. So I guess that's where we kind of start.
Wow. So first of all, always Babson there.
Yeah, I have to plug it.
Yeah, #2 in the nation right now. Mm-hmm. So it's always good to say. So you come to Babson College. Mm-hmm. You're here for years. You go study abroad. When you start your career, obviously you start in real estate, and right now almost 10 years since you graduated in 2014. Mm-hmm. So tell me about you graduate. Where do you start your career in real estate? Can you tell me more about those early ages.
So let me talk about the transition year between Babson and real estate. Right after graduating, I took on what I thought was my dream job. It was my dream job at the time. I worked for a nonprofit, and I did leadership development with women. Got to travel the country for a full year. And why I love that story is because after this incredible education at Babson College, my contract at that job was for $13,000 for the year. I had 7 days off. And it was one of the best learning experiences of my life, because when you're teaching leadership development to women, you have to be incredibly introspective and self-aware. And so that year forced me to have a lot of very honest conversations with myself about my leadership journey, about my conflict management skills, about the way I was as a teacher and an educator, and the way that I learned myself. And it made me realize that I had this really a deep passion for understanding people and their motivations and what inspired them and their stories, and learning about that. And it was in knowing that I wanted to work closely with people that I felt real estate was the right fit. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that I wanted to necessarily sell homes. I had no idea where my career would go. But I was traveling. You could get your real estate license online. So that's what I did. I knew I could work with people in really nice homes in New York City. And I said, I'll start there. And so, that was the beginning of it.
Wow. So, you started in real estate, you started as a real estate agent, and can you go more into your career in real estate at the beginning, and obviously kind of like what is those first years look like to, you know, then making that transition to net seekers and joining them, and now, you know, having your own division.
Yep. So first year in the industry, I think the statistic is that 99% of real estate brokers don't make it past their first year in the industry. Why? Because the barrier to entry is nearly non-existent. It is so easy to become a real estate broker. It is so hard to be a really good salesperson. And that first year, when you're based solely off of commission, most people make no money. So they return to another job. I made even less than that $13,000 in the nonprofit space in my first year in real estate. It was humbling, to say the least. And so after my first year in sales, you know, banging the phone all day, cold calling all day, having tremendous self-doubt and struggling with my confidence, because I'm like, why can't I just sell? Why won't clients work with me? At the time, people didn't want to buy multi-million-dollar homes from a 21-year-old. There are ways to overcome that, but it was really challenging in the beginning because I had a confidence issue. So I took a step back. I became the operations director for the team that I was working on, and I learned everything, soup to nuts, beginning to end, about the real estate transaction process, about real estate in New York City, about almost every single building in New York City. I pretty much became an encyclopedia of real estate in New York in that year. I think one thing that Babson taught me was the notion of first in, last out. And when you're a 1099 and when you work for yourself and when you're your own boss, I think that is understated, is that you really do need to lead by example, and you do have to be the first one in, the last one out. So I made sure that I tried to outwork everyone and to show everyone how hard I was working. And then opportunities just started coming my way because people saw how much effort I was putting in. So it really wasn't until year 3 where I started to get my sea legs underneath me in the industry, where I started to build that momentum, where I started to feel more confident in what I was talking about and my closing ability. And then it became like a multiplier effect after that. My next segue in the industry is I realized that I had a knack for new development. So what I do now, what I specialize in now, is I work with real estate developers from the moment they acquire a plot of land. So they identify a parcel, and then I will advise on what they should build on that parcel. What is the highest and best use? So based on what's transacted in the neighborhood and what's going to be built in the future, how do we enter the market and build a product for the right target buyer? So thinking about launching a building like you launch a product. Who is the buyer? How are we telling a story around the amenity spaces to that buyer? How are we curating those spaces? How are we making sure which ones we have the right spaces or we're putting into the building? Is it a single bachelor who's buying here, or are we building it for families? So dissecting all of those parts, a lot of that was is very data driven and analytical and strategy forward. And so that's where I've really been able to, carve my niche in the industry, and what's been really exciting.
Well, no, that's great. That's great to know, and a great explanation. One thing that I wanted to touch is about your cold calling and sales. Obviously, I think that's something that every entrepreneur has to go through. Those hard rejections, those 100 no's.
Yeah.
So how do you think, like,
thousands of no's?
Thousands of no's. How did, like, building those skill sets at the beginning of your real estate career makes Bianca today?
Yeah. So I think nobody likes to cold call. There is so much rejection in cold calling, and it requires so much persistence and so much discipline. Showing up every single day and banging the phone is a skill that is so unique, and so few people do it. I was writing this morning. I'm working on a book. We could talk about that later. And I was talking about cold calling, and that in sales it takes on average 5 touch bases and follow-ups before you ultimately get to the sale. But 44% of people don't make it past the first call. They call once and they never call back. 44% of people. So like, it requires so much follow-up. But once you get past that discipline and that persistence cascades into every other aspect of your business. It doesn't mean just because you're great on the phones, you're going to be great at everything else. Like those are but if you are great at showing up every single day and hearing no over and over and over and over again, and you still do it anyway, and you still, the moment someone picks up the phone, you're like, game time. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, you cannot have any lack of enthusiasm or forget your pitch or hesitate for a moment. Like, you're on. That teaches you so much more about business. And those are the most successful, not just salespeople, but entrepreneurs, because they're willing to stand up after every single time that they're knocked down.
No, definitely. And I think also that's how you know the market.
Yeah.
Like calling everybody, knowing what's going on. And more than anything, I always like to say it's more look at cold calling or sales as a metric. Okay, I have to reach out to 1,000 people.
Yep.
And from that 1,000 people, maybe 10 might set up a meeting with me. But look more as a metric rather than are they saying no or yes, because people are gonna say no. You just have to keep going.
Yep.
So now going to kind of
But the
like
ones that say yes through that call usually end up being like the best clients.
exactly.
Like when you get them on the phone, that is so much better than an e-blast and you're able to make that conversion, the connection you make during that phone call versus a social media ad or an e-blast or a postcard or some other form of print or digital collateral where you don't have the human connection. The call makes there's so much more loyalty built in that when you're able to reference that point in the client journey and relationship.
Perfect. And for you, do you think, is that like kind of like your main method right now? Like in terms of like, you think that's kind of like your sales method, or do you also try different avenues?
Oh, I do everything all of the time, all at once, in continuum. So we're hitting every arena. I mean, at minimum, we have seven to 8 different marketing initiatives ongoing at any single point in time.
Oh, wow.
Hitting different sections of the market.
Yeah, and then, some people, when they reach out to 10 people and they get no response, they get, sad, and Bianca is throwing 1,000. So this is for all the, the people, young people, entrepreneurs looking at this, of how you can reach out to your clients and your prospects. So now going into your transition to Net Seekers, can you tell me more about that transition? And then obviously, what led you to open your own division?
Yeah. So I transitioned. I started at another firm initially. Nest Seekers was my second brokerage firm that I worked for. And that was really a decision because Nest Seekers is very innovative with our marketing. It was a much different approach. It's a much more of an entrepreneurial journey, which was really, really exciting for me, that there kind of are no rules or red tape with big corporate structure for how and where and why I can market when I market, both on a building, on a product level and on a personal level. So it created a lot of freedom and flexibility as I was building my brand, which was really exciting. And that's what's kept me there all this time. Why my own team? I have to say, although I went to business school, that's #1 in entrepreneurship, I don't think I ever really had this vision or dream of owning my own company. I think I was always a really, really good #2, and I loved being a #2, but I got burned by so many #1s that I reached a point where I'm like, I think I could just do this better on my own and be values forward and create culture and community and not just be in it for profit, but be in it to create lasting impact. And that's what I hope to, and that's what I'm striving to build with my business, with the clients I work with the agents who are on my team. With every single business venture I do, is to do something that is far bigger and far beyond myself, because that's the only way people truly feel connected with what they're doing every day, and you have to be connected to the work.
I love that. I love that by the way. So, one thing that I wanted to know about Net Seekers and the branding and marketing, and to say the least, you are one of the persons from the Babson alumni that, in my opinion, has the best marketing and branding out there. And I wanted to know more about your opinion about having that personal brand, and more than anything, positioning yourself as an industry expert, which you are. How has that helped your company, or what's kind of your thoughts behind that?
Everything is personal branding. Everything. I have my business, I have my company branding, but people want to work with me because of me. And the two have to rise in alignment with each other. Not one is the priority over the other. They're both the priority all of the time, because I am the brand and the brand is me, and we're one in the same. But at the same time, you have to create them individually so that they can exist on their own if they needed to. But it becomes very, very circular, and that's the way that I've seen my business grow and change and evolve. But I realized very early on that marketing was crucial to the growth and to the caliber and the speed that we could grow was through our marketing lens, because it is something that's really, really hard to master. It is something that differentiates ourselves, and it's beyond just logos and storyboards and colors and graphics. It's about creating personality. And it's about remaining authentic throughout the entire process, on both a business and a personal level. So that's been really exciting for me. But yeah, no, I believe that entrepreneurs, I believe that everyone, not just entrepreneurs, I believe everyone has a personal brand. Everyone has a story. And we're just so much stronger, and we could have so much power and so much deeper connection if we find ways to share that story. So yeah.
No, super interesting. And when it comes to branding, it's also so much easier to sell if you have good branding.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. But consumers want to know who is the person beyond the brand now. I mean, it's much different from the way business was conducted before social media existed. People want to know who is behind the brand. What are the values of the brand? What are the values of the people? I mean, that's what is company retention and employee retention and recruitment is all about, values and creating culture within organizations. And a lot of that comes through. I mean, getting business from social media and through our marketing is one thing, but I have so many people who just want to join the brand and be part of the story, because we are constantly storytelling, because we're constantly sharing, because we're constantly open. So I think there's so many more levels to how important that is, but that has to be at the forefront of what individuals and businesses are doing.
No, yeah, I think founders marketing is everything, especially now with social media, with so many platforms out there, it's a must. Yeah. And you can have the best salesperson, but if your marketing is bad, you're not selling.
Correct. Agreed.
So yeah.
Sure.
Okay, perfect. So going back to kind of like starting, your own division, the master division at NetSeekers, can you tell me what was the hardest part of starting this division? What was kind of like the toughest part you have faced so far?
The toughest part or the most unexpected part? So I would say the toughest part is that in the beginning, I think I've gotten used to it now, but it really never ends. You don't get to turn off. When you own your own business, you don't get to turn off. And when people depend on you and their livelihoods depend on you, remembering that you always have to remember that you have a responsibility that's so much bigger than yourself. I think for me, that was when I was, in my mid-20s starting a company. I don't think I realized how monumental that responsibility was. Now I feel it every single day, but that's very, very important. I think what I didn't know getting into it is that nobody has the answers. You'll never have the answers to every problem. All you could do is make the best decision with the information that is in front of you at that specific point in time. Everyone else will have their own opinion about would have done, should have done, could have done, how they would have handled it different. There's one thing I've realized: the only person I need to trust is my gut. My gut has gotten me this far. It has not I have not been wrong yet. It's not to say I won't be wrong, but the big decisions, like when you trust your gut versus the white noise, that was something that no one ever told me. And I had to, it took me years to realize that like no one really knows what they're doing. They're just acting in real time and figuring it out as they go.
Oh, wow. No, I think...
Is that not true?
Yeah, it is very true. It is very true. And about not being able to turn off, that's 100%. You always have to be. Even when you are like in vacation or like away, something in your mind is like, hey, I have to do this, I have to do this.
Or a client calls, like you have to pick up the phone. You just have to pick up the phone. It's not, I'm on vacation, I'll call you 2 days, forget a week from now, I'll call you 2 days. No way. Like, okay, I'll call you in an hour after dinner, maybe, sure, if it's a great client and a great relationship and everything's on good terms. But if it's not, because in sales, like, or in a market-based industry, the market's like this, you have to walk out of whatever you're doing and answer the phone. If you want to keep the client. If not, someone else will pick their call up.
And talking about that, how important is speed for you? Like
speed? Urgency is everything. It is 2% of the world operates with urgency. 2% of the world operates with urgency. Urgency is crucial. Doing what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it is your word. That is your promise. That is your value proposition. You have to operate with urgency, and you have to be true to what you're going to say. The moment you break that bond or that trust with yourself or with the client, it starts to become a pattern and a repetition of behavior that you cannot recover from. And it is urgency, I always like to clarify, is not creating panic in a marketplace. It is moving with confidence at a speed that shows intention to get things done. And so, I mean, I have won, 250 to $400 million sellouts, projects, big towers in New York City, because a client called me at 10 o'clock at night that they needed a report for a lender. And I got up, I went back to the office, and I finished it before they got to their desk in the morning. Not, I'll be in the office early to work on it. No, it was in their inbox before they even stepped into the office. Like, that wins business, hands down.
No, I love that. I'm a big supporter of, I think speed is everything. Like, for example, in our current company, we all say, once we finish a meeting with a lead or a possible prospect, within seconds, we're sending whatever they want. Like if they want, hey, I need X attachment or PDF, we send it right away. Because speed is everything at the end of the day.
And then how quickly do you follow up after that?
Exactly.
You just keep going. Like, it's not only do you send the initial follow-up, but like you stay on them all of the time. Like, I tell everyone on my team, like, you do not stop following up until literally someone curses you. I've even been cursed out by people before, and I will still follow up, and they will still come back to me as clients. Why? Because I was persistent, and they know that I will do whatever it takes to get the deal to the finish line, and people want to work with those people.
No, I love so much wisdom here, so much knowledge. I'm the one interviewing Bianca, but I'm learning here. So thank you for all the knowledge. And wow, I wanted to go a bit more back into the marketing. I know you were one of the stars at selling in the Hamptons. So can you tell me more about the show, and if perhaps the show was good for your growth in your company, in your business overall?
Gosh, yes, the show was amazing, but it's like where to start with the show. The experience of the show taught me so many things. You know, so much of what I go back to, and I keep bringing this back, the conversation back to this, it's not just the professional development, but it's the personal development that comes out of all of these life experiences for how it enhances your professional career. And what I mean by that in this context is I was very, very hesitant to be on the show. And I knew that my whole life would be up for grabs. At that point in time, I had a lot going on in my personal life, in my family life. And I didn't know if I wanted to open myself up and to the entire world like that. And so the biggest thing the show taught me was to be vulnerable, and to be a vulnerable leader. and to not be a perfectionist all of the time, and to realize that things are not in your control. Because when you own a business, not everything's in your control. And when you manage people, if you're a perfectionist, people won't like you and they can't connect with you, and people will burn out, and you won't create an environment and a culture where they feel connected or they can come talk to you when they have a problem. They'll be walking on pins and needles all the time. And that's how I was the first year of my business. Like, I have everything together all of the time. Like, everything's perfect. I know what I'm doing. And all it did was the people who didn't know what they were doing felt like they weren't comfortable to come ask for help. And so the show taught me to be vulnerable with myself when I needed help, or when I needed to open up, or when people wanted to talk to me, how to listen to them. And that made me a far better leader to create a stronger culture for my company, which in turn created better business and more profit for the entire group. So I think that transition is very, very important. So the vulnerability component aside, what the show did for me, that that was just, beyond, was the media exposure.
Wow.
Because it took me, my first year of, when I started filming the show, I didn't even have my company. I didn't even have my company yet. Yeah. It was during that show experience that a business partnership went wrong, and I came back from filming. I'll leave out all of the gory details, although we could talk about that another time. But I came back and it pretty much was like, okay, I have to start over. That did not work. What do I do now? I said, okay, now is my time. If I'm ever gonna do it, it's gonna be now. And so the show also gave me that. But it created that first year in business, building a team, building a business, and having such rapid momentum and growth, paired with the show, paired with the press and media. And listen, like everything you do in business, it's about leverage, right? Yeah. I worked my ass off to make it all happen, all at the same time. But it worked really well for me. And that was huge. It made me realize how much time and effort and energy I need to spend in marketing, to be on TV, to have a social media presence and influence, to now be in the press as a contributor, talking about markets and buildings and projects and building a company. All that made me realize that I was building a brand that was much bigger than myself, and I needed to recognize that.
No, I think that's very impressive. And obviously, as an entrepreneur, one of the things that is a must for everybody is handling stress. Yeah. And I think that's something that you can evade. Sometimes I see on social media, they're like, oh, you become an entrepreneur, you can work whatever you want, you're your own boss.
I'd love to meet that entrepreneur and hear how it's going.
No, yeah, definitely as well. But from what I'm seeing and all the stories I have listening about, is all about handling stress and working since 24/7. So for you, Bianca, how do you handle stress in your life overall? Yeah.
How do I handle stress? I think I'm just so used to stress at this point in time. I think the biggest thing is to keep moving forward, even through stressful times, to take a deep breath, to never write emails or communicate when you're angry or stressed. Like when you're stressed, like figure out what you need to do for yourself. But you need to have resilience in order. So your bounce back rate is crucial. I know people who get stressed and they need to take a week off. You can't run a business like that. I can't even take an hour off if I'm stressed. I get maybe 5 minutes. I have a woman on my team who calls them 2-second funerals. Yeah. She literally, like, a deal will die, something bad will happen. She goes, 2 seconds. She gives herself and she will say, like, 2-second funeral, that's it. I'm like, I love that. So, like, giving yourself, like, okay, acknowledging the feeling, recognizing your stress, but you can't burn an entire day being stressed. You need to keep moving forward. And maybe you don't work on something that is causing or creating the stress at this point in time. Pivot your energy into something else. For me, if I'm stressed, I won't do creative things, right? Like when I'm in a creative zone, I need to have a free mind. I need to feel good. I need to feel relaxed. But like I could crunch numbers when I'm stressed, no problem. I could speak to people when I'm stressed, no problem. So I'm not building a marketing campaign when I'm stressed. I'm pivoting my work effort and energy and what I'm doing into something else that can tolerate my stress a little bit more, if that makes sense.
No, very, very, very interesting. And, you know, obviously, you know, your business, you are everywhere. Right now you're in BAP, so you have like so many conference and events coming up. And, you know, business is a big part of your life. But apart from business, is there anything else that is also vital for you that you use, like, okay, it can be your mental health, it can be your family. Is there anything in particular that you think is a area that you dedicate yourself a lot?
Yeah, my family is the number one most important thing in my entire life. I'm very, very close with my family. And I think that having strong family values, whether you came from a strong family or not, because families are very, very complicated, but having that connection to either a family you're born into or a family you create for yourself, I think says a lot about a person. So my family is super important to me. I love traveling. I love traveling. So whenever I can, I travel. I always find a way to incorporate work into travel. So I get to do both at the same time. So it's not really vacation, but it's definitely traveling. And what I have recently gotten into, which is a huge mental health, I call it my therapy, is I dance. And I dance twice a week for an hour or an hour and a half. And it is my me time, and I love it. I never danced before. I have learned now multiple dances. I particularly love salsa, and it's just so much fun. And so yeah, that's what I do for me.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, it's awesome to know that you're, you know, learning how to dance salsa. Where I come from, Ecuador, salsa is something the most. Everybody dance salsa. I do recommend, if you do wanna hear two salsa songs, Joe Arroyo is the best salsa singer. I will pass you after.
Oh no, you're gonna put it on my Spotify, 1000%.
Yeah, and I think, you know, dancing is beautiful. So it's great to know that you have been doing this exercise, and it's just, you know, it's kind of like a happy exercise at the end of the day.
It's so liberating. I just feel like so free, and I think we all need to find something. You know, when I started dancing because I was like, I just need something that I've always wanted to do that makes me feel good. I had never done it before. I have a dance instructor. You know, he's my friend. I see him more than anyone outside of my team. Like, I see him the most, and we have so much fun together. And so everyone needs to find a hobby outside of work.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, Bianca, so one thing that, you know, I think from your Instagram I have loved the most is your morning routine, waking up or going up to your office at 4 a.m., correct?
Yes.
I think that's something that I really admire. You know, I'm a very disciplined person, but when I see your videos, I'm like, okay, Bianca is doing better than me. I have to be more disciplined. So can you tell me more about that specific routine of, you know, going to your office at 4 a.m.? And
So I want to emphasize that it's not because people are like, how do you possibly have that much to work on? I do my best work in the morning. I love starting my morning early. I love starting before anyone else gets in the office. I love setting my day up. I used to start my day around 6 being in the office, sometimes 7, and it just like wasn't enough time. There's something about me that like gets really excited by that. And so I've just implemented that as a daily routine. For me to get into the office, it's normally most days between 3 and 4 a.m. I already have a 5-6 hour workday before anyone else even gets in. That amount of productivity, like isolated, alone time without anyone calling me, no one calls, no emails come through. It's just working down a to-do list or big picture planning or being super creative, being very intentional. It has given me coming back to my business tenfold. And so, yes, it is most definitely a discipline. I have a feeling I'm not going to love it in the cold months because I haven't done it through a winter yet. This has become just over the last few months I've implemented this, but honestly, I'm not looking back. It's awesome.
No, I think that's very inspiring, you know, to kind of, you posting it, and I think even, you know, friends that I know are like, wow, you know, she's getting it, you know, everybody's like, oh.
I mean business.
Yeah,
like, I'm
exactly.
serious here.
Yeah.
And also starting that early, make sure that I need to have a good night the night before.
Yeah.
You know, so much when you're a business owner, when you're starting up, when you're in sales, is entertaining clients.
Yeah.
This has forced me to entertain clients in a very different way. I don't want to go out to dinner at 8 o'clock at night and have multiple drinks. I want to prioritize my sleep, want to prioritize my health, and I want to prioritize my work. And there's plenty of other ways that you could connect with clients and entertain clients that don't have to revolve around dinner culture.
Yeah, and how your schedule looks like on a normal day? Because you get to the office at 4. At what time do your team gets into the office? And then how's like your schedule? Do you have like a fixed routine that you follow?
Yeah, so everything that I do in the morning is things that don't require other people or like really require undivided attention.
Yeah.
By the time 9 o'clock rolls around, like all of the chaos starts, because that's when, I mean, right now I'm working on 40 buildings in New York City. And right now I have about 32 people on my team. And we're expanding into more markets and working on more projects. And then we have all of our individual buyers and all of our individual sellers and then all of the other projects I'm working on. So like by 9 o'clock, it is chaos. And it's managing other people. So everything prior to 9 a.m. is managing me and the things that I want to work on. And so that's how I set my morning up. The rest of my team starts to trickle in between 9 and 10 because I have a handful of staff. So all of my staff is in by 9 a.m. But then the rest of my team is agents. So they come in and out of the office, and every day looks very, very different. Sometimes we have a full office with 30 people. Other days we have 5 or 6. It really depends. And on different days, I'm out in the field, which I've been spending more and more time out in the field, which has been great at our projects and at our listings and properties. So there really is no set routine or schedule. And then, I mean, if I'm not out with the client eating a meal, all 3 of my meals are in the office. And then I'll leave the office I like to be home by 11. It used to be much later, but I like to try to be home by 11 in order to be back up again by 2:33.
Wow, that's super inspiring, and you have to have a lot of discipline. So for you, how important has being disciplined in your life, and like what's your perspective behind discipline in growing such a successful company so far?
So I don't think I realized how much discipline I had since probably the last year. And I think it's come back. It's in my personal life and in my professional life. I think I guess to most other people, they would be like, how do you struggle with discipline? But I think in my mind, I was struggling with discipline because I put so much discipline into my business, but not into my personal life. I wasn't working out regularly. I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't taking care of my mind. That personal discipline is just as important as the professional discipline. And it was only like when you start a business, you get so bogged down with, I mean, when I started, I was working 21 to 22 hours a day. You cannot, I was doing that, I did that for 2.5 years. You start to go a little nutty by year 3. So I do not recommend that. It doesn't mean you won't have to do that sometimes. It doesn't mean I still don't do that sometimes. But you need to be getting a little bit more sleep than that. And you need to be exercising and you need to be eating right, because all of that impacts your cognitive function, your decision making, your agitation levels with people and with managing people. Because we were talking about stress before. Like, I'm not stressed now. If you asked me 2.5 years ago if I was a wrecking ball of stress, and everyone felt it. I don't want to feel that anymore. Now I walk in, it doesn't matter that I've been in the office 6 hours before everyone. I am so damn happy when everyone gets there and I'm ready to start the day. And so that's just a total different level of making discipline routines and practice in my life. So whatever you feel disciplined in, It is a practice, and you can get better at it.
Yeah.
And I would say that most of us have something we are disciplined in.
Yeah.
Calling a loved one at a certain frequency, that's a discipline. Eating a certain way, that's a discipline. Studying a certain way, that's a discipline. I have found a way to hyper compound all of my disciplines all at the same time and be wildly regimented in everything that I do. But you don't have to be that nuts. You just need to find like what disciplines are really important to you and focus on them. So if it is, you know, I'm really good at cold calling, or I'm really good at waking up early, like keep doing that. Double down on that. Make that your thing and figure out how to maximize that attribute that you're doing for how it will impact you personally and professionally.
No, yeah, I think definitely discipline is one of the key points of any entrepreneur and any aspiring young professional as well, or any professional. Like discipline is a must. Doing the things that you don't like to do.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I don't want to wake up today at 4 a.m., but you still do it.
Yeah, still do it.
It's just about doing it regardless of how you feel and taking that feeling away. And, you know, talking more about your career and obviously you have so many properties, you're closing deals left to right. What has been the most important deal that you have done for you? Like, it doesn't have to be monetary, but a specific deal that you were like, okay, this deal, like maybe changed your life or changed your business trajectory.
Honestly, from a real estate deal perspective, they're all amazing. They're all different. Like from signing, I worked on $1 billion, a project that was $1 billion sellout. Like from signing that building and selling it out to, working on $1 million deal with someone who's a first-time home buyer. Like every single deal is awesome, and I learned something from every single time. But I would say the biggest deal for me was probably signing my book deal because I wanted to write a book, and I've been manifesting writing a book since I'm 8 years old. Yeah. And I can't share too much more information than that. You'll just have to have me back in a few months when I could release everything. But that was like a real moment of validity. Of like, wow, I always had wanted to do this. I always thought I could do this. I had no idea how to do this, but I believed it would happen at some point in time. And to be able to sign that contract and to be working towards writing that and to be like at the finish line of that is incredible. So
yeah, and can we get like a sneak peek about what's the book gonna be about?
So it's going to be about intention. There's going to be a lot of discussion about disciplines and practices and behaviors, but it's really 10 principles for how to identify your purpose, amplify your power, and then lead with lasting impact. It's a business book, but beyond being just a business book, it's a personal development book about how you fall back on your life's journey, how you commit yourself to self-awareness and discovery, and how you recognize that every single person around us has a story to tell. We all have incredible traumas. We all have these moments of triumph and success. And there's so much power in that storytelling, and there's so much power in diving deeper into those memories and those moments as a catalyst for how they have shaped you to become the person you are today. And in finding those connections with people, professionally and in business, how that you form deeper connections. And it's supposed to empower you to really dive into those moments of hardship, to recognize the gifts of what they have taught you, and how powerful they are in shaping you to become the person you are. And all of the greatest business leaders and entrepreneurs and athletes and musicians and artists, everyone has had those tremendous struggles and those moments that they've used and they've harnessed and they've turned into something so beautiful. So we all have the ability to do that.
No, well, I will definitely be, looking into reading the book, as it comes out. And this is a topic that I love to touch because, I come from very humble beginnings, and I think for me, being able to switch all the negatives that happened to me in my life and actually don't make it negative, but turning that into a positive, like, okay, you know, I was an immigrant, I came here with nothing, I grew up with no resources, hey, but now I grew up with nothing, and now I'm, you know, I went to BAB, so using it as a fuel and being able to switch negative things to positive things and use it as power, I think is something incredible.
It's incredible. It's incredible. You know, and like that, the heart of that is mindset, right? Yeah. It's the mindset shift that we all have the ability to change our mind. Our mind is the greatest force in the entire world. Like do you believe in the power of manifestation?
I have heard of it. I don't know too much about it, but happy to.
We could if we don't have time because like I so strongly believe in manifestation, but the root of manifestation is that your mind controls your body and can set your destiny and your future. And as someone who's struggled with tremendous mental health and has really struggled with my mind, and to be able to pull myself out of that and realize like I am probably one of the happiest people I've ever met, ever. And that is because I have coached my mind to get there. Like it was not always there. I worked on it. I healed it. But like we can all do that. And the power in that for where you go personally, professionally, in your relationships, it's just tremendous. It's just incredible. So
I definitely agree with that. Everything is about changing the mind frame, you know, and it's so much. We can speak about hours and hours about changing your mindset. But I definitely agree. I think that's one of the vital points about, you know, changing yourself, and also for entrepreneurs to change themselves and be able to change their business with it. And now going to one of the topics I love the most is about Babson College.
Okay.
So you know, you have done a lot of stuff for Babson. I know recently you are about, not sure if you already gave or have a scholarship program.
I'm launching it this weekend. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so I would love to know more about how Babson has shaped your career, and then you can obviously go ahead and talk about the scholarship and everything that you have been doing for this college.
Well, I think like everything that we've been talking about, I think another very important component of all of it is paying tribute to where you've come from and who has made you the person you are today, and leading with a philanthropic heart and paying it forward. And so Babson College was pivotal in my journey. Like, I love this school, but my freshman year, I hated it here. I hated it here because for the first time, like, I didn't know who the hell I was. I came here like super bubbly, popular girl in high school, and I came here, I'm like, wow, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about business. Everyone's so smart. Everyone has a company. Everyone has it all figured out. Everyone's parents owns businesses, and that's what they're gonna do. I was like, where do I go? Where do I fit in? And my freshman year, I didn't know what I was learning in all of my classes, and I didn't know what I was good at. I figured it out over time, but like, I needed my confidence to be shattered there so it could be rebuilt in a totally different way. And Babson did that for me. Like, it shattered me, and then it rebuilt me and morphed me into like such a strong person who, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for this school. So everything that I could do, I do. So yes, here speaking with the real estate group today, speaking at a sales conference. Also this weekend, I'm here for my 10-year reunion. Launching Sigma Kappa was very, very important to me in my journey at Babson, which was my national sorority I was part of, because that taught me leadership. As a sophomore, I was able to be president of an organization that had to report to people on a national level. Like, to have that response, like, I think back at that now, like, I had to deliver weekly reporting to people who oversaw sororities across the entire country to let them know what we were doing on this campus, to make sure we were adhering to their standards and policies and ethics and procedures. Like, that's an incredible lesson for an 18-year-old to learn. So I'm launching a scholarship through the Sigma Kappa Foundation for Babson College students who achieve educational excellence and are philanthropically involved. So I'm very, very excited about that. And it was important to me to be able to announce that and put that together at this 10-year reunion because my closest friends are from Sigma Kappa. And I hope that one day we could pay it forward to someone in the organization who's in need because, education, I believe in education so much. At whatever level it is, whatever school you go to, I don't take it for granted for 1 second. I went to this incredible school, but education and learning from people around you, always having a growth mindset that you can learn from everyone in every situation all of the time, both what to do and also what not to do, right?
Yeah.
And knowing the distinction. So yeah, that's what the scholarship's about.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it.
Well, first of all, I respect you a lot because me as a recipient of scholarships and private grants to be able to attend Babson College, without that, I would have not be here. And I know it's because of many people like yourself, and I hope in the future I can do the same as well to give back and be able to provide opportunities for people in need and attend such a nice college. And now, going back kind of to the final section of the podcast, I would like to discuss more about, your company, the Master's Division, and if you want to maybe discuss a bit more about like what you guys offer, who is the right fit if someone is watching the podcast and wants to work with you, and you can go ahead and.
So like I was saying earlier, so we are a real estate brokerage team who specializes in new development, marketing, and sales. So we do the same thing that every other brokerage does in working with, or real estate agent does, working with buyers, working with sellers across any market. I think that is a huge key differentiator about us, is that my main markets right now are New York City and Boston, but I'm also in New Jersey. I'm throughout the entire Hamptons, and I also have teams in Portugal, in Mexico, in Florida, in California. And normally in the brokerage model, a lot of that's siloed, a lot of that is segmented into different markets and different cities perform or don't communicate. We've found tremendous power in recognizing how global real estate is, and that the data and the analytics and the way that the market is moving impacts across the spectrum. So one market impacts another market, and we share that information with each other. But our main business function and where I would say, outperform our competition, almost single-handedly, but I'll let you decide for yourself, would be in the new development space.
Wow.
So working with developers, wherever they may be, because the great thing about development is so much of it is driven by data and by storytelling and by marketing. So as long as we have the right salespeople and boots on the ground in any market, we are able to provide our level of services. So I'm building a project right now in Portugal. I've worked on projects throughout the UK. So we will advise developers once they acquire a site what they should build there, and then we will hand select every finish, every detail with them. So we make sure that when you're looking at it from the consumer's eyes, it's a curated package and it's differentiated in the marketplace, and it stands out because the marketing wasn't done after the building was built. The marketing was done as the first step in the entire process, and all of it was derived by data. And so who wants to work with us? Every developer everywhere across the world should work with us. But buyers and sellers, investor owners, investor purchasers, we service everyone. And that's why I have such a large team, is because we have not specialized in any one segment of the market. We are wildly diversified in a market-driven business. Which allows us to remain very, very competitive no matter what's happening with interest rates. We are still performing, we are still transacting, and we still have our finger on the pulse across the global real estate sphere.
Oh, so now everybody knows who is the best in the market. Okay, so as we end the podcast, my last question for you, Bianca, is if you can give advice, let's say to Bianca, 20 years old, just graduating college, or any advice to any young professional or anybody overall, which advice will it be and why?
to 20-year-olds and young professionals now? Okay. I'll first start by saying you don't have to have it figured out. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself to have it figured out. And also, totally lose your ego. You have absolutely no position to have an ego. The only thing you're only responsible when you're 20-something years old is to learn all of the time. Be humble, work your ass off, work harder than you think you could ever work in your entire life. Work, surround yourself with the right people, and don't take your 20s for granted. While you don't have to have it all figured out, they go by really, really fast. So the behaviors and the disciplines and the practices that you put into effect in your 20s will impact you in your 30s. That would be my advice.
Well, no, thank you so much, Bianca. And for everybody that's looking at the podcast and wants to contact you, maybe your company or your personal brand, what are the social media handles where they can find you? Yeah.
Yes, Instagram all day, every day. I will be on there starting at 3:30 in the morning when I wake up until I go home every day. But if you want to work with me, if you want to join me, Bianca at nestseekers.com. And I'm sure there's like a contact box.
In the job description, and also right here in the screen, all the socials will appear of Bianca and also of Nest Seekers, just to make it more simple. But Bianca, it was a pleasure to have you on episode 12, and thank you so much for coming and filming in Babson College.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.